Hi, everybody. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosrawi. Thank you for joining us again this Wednesday, June 29th, for our live show where we take your questions about U.S. immigration, general questions for general education purposes only, and we talk about them and explain them. We also give away free consultations, free 15-minute consultations for those watching the live show. All you got to do is like and subscribe and leave a comment when you're watching live, obviously, and say consult Citizen Katrina every 10 minutes. So 3 different consultation times, winners in a raffle being chosen every 10 minutes. So prepare for that. And, we have a lot of regular viewers. Parent Andrews on says, what happened? Did we get canceled? What happened? Well, last week, unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the live show, but we're back. My apologies for that, but, happy to be back. If you're interested, and it's a big reminder, if you're interested in a marriage immigration case, a marriage visa case, download the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. This is a guide that breaks down the A's to Z's of a marriage case, a fiance case, and what happens, what forms need, all that kind of stuff. It's a general education, as always, but it's really going to help you. Trust me, even if you don't want to do a marriage case, you want to do another kind of case, download it. 80% of the information overlaps with other adjustment kind of cases anyways, the cost of processing. But it shows the kind of information we're putting out there and how much our firm is really dedicated to helping people. If you're interested in scheduling a formal consultation, just email me at info@jqqlaw.com. If you're watching a live show, I got to edit the email. I have two shows I put on. One of them is called the Immigration Lawyer's Toolbox, but this one's called JK Law, my law firm. So having said that, let's get the show started. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us with questions rolling in right now. We'll start. Parent Andrew is asking about being canceled or postponed. It has not. We're here to take your questions. The name of the show has changed. We're called U.S. Immigration Talk now, as opposed to JQK Law Firm, for our YouTube channel to better describe what it is that we do. So you could definitely have that. To start, we got a busy Instagram questions going. So Malika asks, should I apply for naturalization or should I wait for I-75 removal to get approved first? I'm a permanent resident. So what happens is if you get a green card as a two-year green card, because it's based on marriage and the marriage is new, after 2 years, you apply for I-75 to apply for a permanent residency, not permanent residency, but removal of the conditions of the green card, go from a 2-year green card to a 10-year green card. That process takes 6 years to 2 years on average. It's pretty long. So in the meantime, you can file for citizenship, naturalization form N-400. In almost every case, we do that when the I-75 one's pending, but I can't tell you whether you should have milk or not. I don't know how strong your I-75 case is. So I don't want your I-75 to get denied and have to waste the money on a citizenship case. So for my clients, if most of the clients I have, we start from the beginning, their fiance visa or marriage case, they get the green card, they work with me on I-75 removal conditions, and then when citizenship time comes, I already know the case, and I say, okay, yeah, file for citizenship, it's all going to work, and that's a regular thing we do here. Probably the bulk of our work is this process. But yeah, most of the time it's okay. You'll see some law firms online say, no, it's not possible to do that, it's not safe to do that. I completely disagree with that, but I can't tell you whether you should do that or not because I don't know your case and the details of it to say, okay, make a big legal decision like that. But yeah, it's not a bad idea it's a good idea actually to look into filing for citizenship if you have a form I-75 removal condition pending. Sometimes, most of the time nowadays, it actually speeds the process up. If you're doing a case in Los Angeles, for example, which cases as fast as 3-4 months, a majority of them getting done, that'll force the I-75 to get to front officer and potentially get adjudicated faster, fraction of the time. So definitely something to look at and recommend it to analyze to see if it works for you. Another question on Instagram. Sorry, I'm so many buttons here. I'm messing up the page. Mike says, you're welcome. Lang TV asks, can a U.S. citizen that has never had a social security number apply? So if you're a U.S. citizen, you could always apply for a social security number. So that's fine. The problem is practically getting the social security number is a huge headache. If you're overseas, you got to work with the embassy, which can take a year to get it. And even if you come to the United States, they may ask for a lot of paperwork and documentation. So yeah, you can't file a social security number. As a U.S. citizen, you're subject to U.S. taxation wherever you have income. So even if you never came to the United States, you're supposed to file U.S. tax paperwork. And the problem is, if you don't have a social security number, how are you going to do that? So you have some big tax issues and accounting issues you got to deal with. But when it comes to social security number, yeah, you can apply for one if you're a U.S. citizen. Just be prepared to deal a long way and a lot of paperwork and a lot of headache. That's what it is. Okay. But thank you for your question. Maria asks, what is the cost for consultation? It varies depending on what you're asking for, what kind of services, and which attorney in the law firm is handling it. Obviously, my law firm and my senior associate law firm are the most expensive ones. But we have another associate that's less expensive. What you got to do, Maria, if you want to schedule a consultation, is to email the office, briefly describe the issue that you have, and we'll see who's the best lawyer to handle that and consult with you on. And we take it from there. The email info@jqqlaw.com, and we'll respond to you the information that you need. I appreciate the question. Paranoid address. I have a friend who is Russian national, was offered a job in the United States. Is it possible for Russians, he's in the UK now, to apply for a work visa despite conflict in Ukraine? Yeah, I mean, there's a couple issues in realities. One is if they were in Russia, it would be very difficult because they need to get there's no U.S. embassy there essentially practicing. So they have to leave Russia. Getting a visa to Poland may be hard, this and that. But if they're already in UK, that solves the bigger problem that we usually have. And then are they going to approve it? Well, they could always go through the process. At the end of the day, we never know what the U.S. embassy is going to do, whether they're going to approve a visa or not. There's no big thing that says they won't approve Russians, but my experience, for example, with Iranian cases, more than half the time, they'll do the interview, and then after the interview, they'll say, we have to do more research and do administrative processing. Then 3, 6 months, 9 months, a year go by, nothing happens. So that kind of stuff is more and more going to happen to Russian nationals as well, most likely. So, they should give it a shot. If they have the work and the employer is going to process the visa case, they should do it. There's a chance that it'll happen with no problems on the regular bureaucratic issues. But, this is something that's going to take over 6 months probably to get to an embassy. So, who knows the situation is there and who knows how they're going to handle that case. So if they're interested, they should just do it. I have a question on Instagram. Sarah Gold asks, I'm a petitioner for an I-751. Currently, my husband is studying and not working, but I work full-time. Does it impact the approval of an I-751? Do they ask for my husband's W-2? So the I-751 removal conditions is focused on whether you're really a couple or not. Are you married? So they want evidence of a relationship. Whether you're working or not working or that stuff doesn't really come into play here unless there's some fishy circumstances. But if you're working, your partner's going, it is what it is. It's not a big deal. So that's not a focus. And when you're filing a jointly filed I-751, they technically call both of you are called a petitioner on that, even though this makes sense. But I don't see employment being an issue unless I don't know the details of the case, unless it's some really weird thing that's sparks red flags. But again, that's why in law you can't get 100% answers because I don't know the exact details, but it's generally not a problem. Kadem says hi to you too. Next question is coming from YouTube. Lovebirds asks, how long does it take the time for a spouse visa with a green card? So, this question is very vague and broad, but I'll give you a big picture. So if you have a green card and your spouse is in the United States, it depends on the local immigration office that you're dealing with. It could be 3 or 4 months. It could be 2 months. If your spouse is overseas, first you submit Form I-130 to tell them, hey, this is a real relationship and stuff with USCIS. That process could take anywhere from 6 months to 24 months, 2 years. So it's bad. Once USCIS approves it, then you got to schedule a time with an embassy. That process could be 3 months. It could be a year or even a year and a half on average. And then from there, they do an embassy interview. If it's approved, it's approved. If it's not, it may go into administrative processing. We talked about that earlier. And then months and months go by. So it can be as fast as a year, year and a half. More likely 2.5 to 3 years for a spouse of a green card holder case right now, and with the potential of being longer. It's pretty disastrous if you're married and you have to wait 2-3 years for your spouse to come here. But that's a consequence of COVID. It also depends on what country you're from or the foreign spouse is from. There's an RFE. If you have doubt in your relationship, if you have affidavit support issues, the National Visa Center messes your paperwork up. There's just so many bureaucratic hurdles that could pop up. But on average, I would say 2 to 3 years easily. I do want to announce our winner, actually. My wonderful says Katrina named someone early. Sarah Gold watching on Instagram. Sarah, take a screenshot of where you're watching this so I know it's you. And then email me at info@jqqlaw.com, the screenshot that shows your username. And that's your account. And we'll schedule a private consultation to talk a little more about your case. We have a follow-up question. Malika asks, is it risky to travel with an I-751 extension? I have a clean record so I-751. That's when you have a 2-year green card, might get a 10-year green card. Your green card is expired when you file the application, but they send you a receipt notice that gives you a 2-year extension. Is it risky to travel? The definition of these words are difficult to say. Is it risky? There is risk. Risk exists in this world. Is it risky when I get in my car that I'm getting into an accident? Yeah, that risk exists every day. That's why I buy insurance because it's expected. all of us are eventually going to get some sort of accident. How difficult accident, how bad it is, it's going to vary. I don't know anything about you, and I've had clients say one thing, and then I read the case, it was another. So I can't give you this kind of advice. It's risky for you to do that. Generally, none of my clients have issues traveling, but I just don't know you, your background. And at the end of the day, there is risks involved. So it just depends on how important it is for you to travel. Is it something that's emergency related or not? How strong your I-75? One case is we don't want your I-75 case to be denied when you're abroad for some reason. So that's just not a question I can answer, especially not having seen your application. Wait, what? Uzi says, hi, John. I like your new beer style. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. We'll see how long my wife allows me to keep it. Probably get rid of it pretty soon, but I'm going to keep it until I can. But thank you. Next question. Before 200 citizenship interview, try contacting local office, try contacting USCIS on the phone line, maybe try contacting your local senator or congressperson and see what's going on. 250 days is a long time. Was actually, let me back it up. I misread. I thought you said you got a citizenship interview, wait for the oath ceremony. 250 days for waiting for a citizenship interview is not a long time. So if it goes more than a year and a half or something like that, that's when I would start being worried. 250 days, let me do some public math, 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210. So that's just like 8 months. That's not a big deal. Zoki asks, any updates for the processing times for I-751? No, not really. Just they're trying to make it faster allegedly, but really we see 6 months to 24 months. Daryl asks, hey, John, you're doing a great job. Thank you so much, Daryl. I appreciate it. Maria asks, how do you know which service center is processing your case to be filed on I-line I-130? There's no real good way to know. I get this question every week, but the best way is to call them and ask them where it is, but they may be wrong. They may have moved the case and not updated in the phone operator system. After you call them, they may move it again. So there's no real good way to know which service centers I've seen that the case is at. Let me take an Instagram question real quick. Zolfar says, my wife has passed away after giving birth to my child in USA. It's horrible news. I'm really sorry to hear that. And my in-laws have erased my identity from every U.S. document, but I amended the certificate and birth certificate of my child. That's a big issue. I'm not sure if I could help if it's per se immigration, but that's just a horrible situation to see. I'm really sorry to hear that. We'll do a next question. Alexander asks, how can I know who is processing I-130 for spouse petition adjustment status? How can I know who is processing I-130 for spouse petition and adjustment of status case? I don't know what your question means, Alexander. So try to rephrase what exactly you're asking about. How do you know who did the petition for spouse case? Well, the spouse did the petition. I don't follow. Charlie asks, hello, I applied for asylum for my grandmother and she's not doing well now. Can I go to the interview on her behalf? I mean, not at all. First of all, you don't apply for asylum on someone else's behalf. That person files for them. So that part, I don't know what's going on. And there's just no way that person has to go through their asylum. And I don't handle asylum cases. I don't know if there's an exception to all this kind of stuff, but it's very unlikely it's going to work the way you're saying it. Plus, based on the way you're wording this question, all this kind of stuff, I assume you may not be using an attorney or a good attorney. Hopefully, it's not one of my friends who's your attorney if they are referring, but you really should talk and get legal help as soon as possible with these kind of issues and questions. Immediately talk with a lawyer in private. And my office doesn't do asylum, so I wouldn't be able to help you. Vloggerman asks, hello, sir, I'm waiting on a decision after asylum interview. It's already been 3 months. Yeah, that's not abnormal necessarily. On Instagram, Aguada says, if I had my job permission, my green card is close. No, the work authorization card, the EAD work permit, is unrelated to how long it's going to take to get the actual green card. Raki asks, hi, Sir John. I just want to ask, my parents petitioned me, how many months will their petition be approved since I'm already here in the United States and should also apply for adjustment status? Raki, that's a complex question. I don't know what status your parents have, what status you have in the United States, if you're even able to adjust status. Because if you're here and without a valid visa, there's an issue. If you enter the United States with the intent to adjust status, that's another issue. There's just too much stuff going on, Raki. You really need to consult an attorney private 100% on what the questions you're telling me. User 09 asks, my green card got put a wrong date of birth. They updated it, but have not sent me a new one. It's been 6 months. Yeah, unfortunately, when your green card has issues, or even when you want to renew your 10-year green card, it could take more than a year and a half to get a new one. I have a case, a husband and wife who filed for the green card renewal, and the wife's green card was renewed the 10-year, which is the same procedure as updating a date of birth error. Her green card was renewed in 2.5, 3 months. And we filed the case, I think November. Wife's case was approved in like late January, February. Now it's late June, about to be July. The husband still hasn't had his green card approved, and we sent them together, same facts, essentially lived together, married, all that kind of stuff. So that's the situation. You really can't rely on this kind of stuff. I missed a question from Wait What Uzi. Yeah, they ask, does USCIS do any background checks or inspections on a U.S. citizen, or they only do the immigrant? So USCIS does do background checks or reviews of the U.S. citizen petitioner, especially in marriage cases or when you're applying for a child. For example, there's a thing called the Adam Walsh Act, and under the Adam Walsh Act, if you're a U.S. citizen or green card holder who's been, has a conviction for, child abuse, child sexual abuse, stuff like that, you can't petition for somebody unless you get a waiver for that. And so they do look into every petition to make sure that doesn't apply. And then when you apply for a fiancé visa, for example, they ask about the arrest record of the petitioner, the U.S. citizen, and you have to submit those documents. So they do look into that, test it, and make sure it's okay. And this kind of stuff pops up. So yeah, you should always expect that if you're going to partake in the immigration process, there are going to be background checks and stuff done on you. Good question. Thank you for asking that. As well, follows up, for my child custody, my U.S. court awarded me with child custody, but the U.S. Embassy is not issuing a tourist visa because I will not return to U.S. after getting my child custody. Zulfikar, this is just too deep. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to get into this conversation here. We need to talk to a lawyer in private. But thank you for your question. Shafiq asks, processing time for I-360 for SIV Afghan. I'm in America. I don't have an answer for that. PJ with the base asks, if I do a medical exam, what happens if I don't have immunization records and aren't able to obtain one? Well, then just the doctor will give you new ones. That's about it. We're going to do a show. We're going to record it tomorrow with my associate, Andre Giva, about the medical exam. We just had a case. It was out of control. The doctor filled out the wrong form, an old form, and then they missed the parts that put their information in there. They put the name of the client in the wrong place, forgot the alien number, forgot their own ID number, missed boxes on the vaccine list. And what's worse is I always, and this is best practices, whenever we have clients that are going through the medical checkup that's needed, if you're applying for a green card, we ask the client to get the sealed envelope that the doctor gives you, which you hand to USCIS later, but also to get an extra copy of things for that to be released to you. And this doctor wouldn't give it to the client. And we have to call and threaten them because it's against state law. Doctors, if they do, check you up, they have to release a copy. But moreover, the regulation for USCIS and the instruction, their training, everything says the doctor is supposed to, on its own, give the sealed envelope and a copy of it. Some doctors won't, and we have to call and threaten to take them to court and to take away their license before they do it. It's really ridiculous, unnecessary, and it's a good thing we did that in this case because the doctor completely messed it up. Now, I want to make a list of these doctors not to go to, but they're probably going to sue or some libel against me or something like that. So it's going to be a private list for my clients, or maybe my colleagues are going to share it behind the scenes of doctors who completely mess things up, who to avoid when you're doing a medical checkup. I have a couple of doctors in LA and Los Angeles that have seen this nonsense happening, unfortunately. But that's the thing. That's why I have a lawyer. The case is clean on its own. The client would never have checked the medical, and they go to the interview, and they would have most likely got an RFE. I had a colleague in Florida where the doctor messed up and they filled out right, and the officer didn't give time for them to correct the medical. They just denied the case, which is crazy. They all probably fixed everything like that, but it just, you see this stuff, and you're like, oh, what's going on? I'm going to jump to Instagram really quick and take some questions there. Anoshaz, I have a question. Is it hard to marry a U.S. citizen and get a green card here nowadays? A lot of students come here and do these things, but I guess it's hard. It's not a matter of hard or easy. It just depends on the facts, and we do it. A majority of my cases are people studying in the United States with F1 students who fall in love with classmates and sometimes teachers, and and they get here. So it's not hard or easy. It depends on the facts and what the situation is. That's why I have a guide called the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. If you go to marriageimmigrationlaw.com, you can download the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide and learn all about this kind of stuff. It's my bread and butter. That's what I do every day. Okay, another question about us is, if I get denied due to lack of evidence, but I do not have the information, I just didn't send it. I do have the information. Can I start the process over again for residency? Maybe, Aguada. That just goes too deep into case-specific stuff. I have to see what's going on and what you have, don't have, what you did. Juliana asked, if my green card application is in process and I currently do not have status, but have a U.S. valid driver's license, can I go to Hawaii on a flight? Technically, you could travel domestically to Hawaii. There might be a risk. Imagine you're flying to Hawaii, and God forbid the airplane has issues and has to land in Mexico. That could be problematic. And sometimes, some customs officers get overzealous and start hassling you and checking you up. Overall, it's normally not a problem, but it's not guaranteed, but very unlikely that you're going to have a problem traveling domestically. As a lawyer, I know all these different things, the stories that happen, and you hear one bad story once, and there's a million stories that are good, but you hear the one, then you're like, okay, I got to be careful of this. So in this scenario, you'll be in the United States, having valid ID, preferably have your passport better than a driver's license. But and because there's a rule called the Real ID Act, which is going to make old driver's license is invalid for travel domestically on an airplane. You have to get a real ID for it, which you probably won't be able to get. So passport's better. But you hear one story once, and then it's your head like, oh, I got to be careful. But it's very rare in that scenario to have problems. I do want to announce our winner for our second raffle of the night, Rocky Mendoza. Please take a screenshot of where you're watching this and email it to me at info@jklaw.com. Then we take your question private. I'll go over it briefly here. Hi, Sir John. I want to ask my parents petition me how many months. Okay, it's that question. Okay, yeah. So, Rocky, Rocky, take a text, a screenshot, email it to me so I can see what's going on with your case, and we'll have a private 15-minute video consultation. And for those just tuning in, when you're watching a live show, we'll give away 3 free consultations. We already given 2. We're giving away 1 more in 10 minutes. All you got to do is like and subscribe and write consultation. My wonderful assistant, Katrina, will name a winner. And then also, as a reminder, download the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. If you're interested in the marriage green card and you want to see what's going on the process and all that, download it. Go to marriageimmigrationlaw.com. That's marriageimmigrationlaw.com, and you can check it out there. I have a question on Instagram. Rob Pass. I came to the United States in 2019 to March 2020 to March this year. Our religious organization filed I-360. How to get the I-360 receipt number? Ask the employer. They have the receipt number, and they'll give it to you. Zulfagar, that's humanitarian parole. Zulfagar, I don't handle humanitarian parole cases, so I wouldn't be a good resource for that. I'm sorry, I wouldn't be able to help you with that one. Bunny Law says, what's your specialty? Where in California, I'm not allowed to announce a specialty. This is lawyer rules, but what I focus on are primarily people are getting married, whether if their spouse is abroad or in the United States. We do marriage adjustment status, marriage cases with consular processing, fiance visas. We also do we also help people with extraordinary ability to get green cards. We help companies who are transferring their employees to the United States to get green cards. We're hiring people from overseas doing H-1B, EB-2, EB-3. People who have they're just so high up in the field they're doing. They ask for a national interest waiver at NIW. We handle those cases. A lot of investor visas, E2 investor visas in particular. People who want to come to the United States, start a business from certain countries could do that. So it's we help people. Maybe I should tell you what we don't do is we don't handle removal defense, which is immigration court deportation. We don't handle asylum cases, and we only handle a few humanitarian type cases. I don't handle myself. My new associate may handle a VAWA case, a Violence Against Women's Act case, a U visa case, but not too much on the humanitarian side. Asylum for sure, no, and also no removal defense. We do some pro bono stuff behind the scenes, but it's not something I put out there. We just pick and choose clients just for pro bono reasons. Now, as I asked, does everyone have to go through the interview marriage-based green card? Majority of the time, sometimes they'll waive it. If you're doing the embassy, 100%. If you're doing it in the United States, rarely they'll waive it. I've had cases waive it, but it's not too long. Paranoid Andrew referring to the discussion on the doctor saying reporting to the state board. Yeah, I'm always on the verge of doing it, but it's just extra work for me that's there. So hopefully we educate the doctor on what to do in the process. But I have an organization called the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. Part of the long list of stuff I do when I hire enough people to help me with this kind of stuff is to go after this kind of stuff, really just focusing on training first, state education, so they know these errors, so we don't have to report them to board. But if they keep continuing, we can have a master list of doctors who are not listening to attorneys when they're teaching them what they're supposed to do, and they continue what they're doing. If we see that, we can report on the board and also try to have them removed from the USCIS list. Unfortunately, the USCIS doesn't have a mechanism for us to complain about these doctors who do that job wrong. So they're maybe in their policy for some dumb reason. So it's a major headache for no reason. User 09 asks, how many years will it take for an I-130 from India applied 2011? So an I-130 is a catch-all petition. It could be for a spouse, it could be for a parent, it could be for a child, it could be for brothers, sisters. So I don't know what kind of case you have. What you want to do is go to what's called the visa bulletin. And on that visa bulletin, on the first chart, it says the name of the country from India. So it says India and the category of I-130 petition that it is, and it tells you what cases currently are being adjudicated. Now, this chart doesn't move up month to month. Like sometimes it jumps forward 6 months, it gets faster. Sometimes it slows down. It doesn't move. The line doesn't move for months, or So, but that'll give you some idea of what's going on in processing times when it comes to a case that's an I-130 and you're abroad and all that kind of stuff. So I would just refer you to that one. 29 Super C1 on regular says, good night, Check and Start. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much. I'm doing great and good to hear from you. 29 Super C, are you in the U.S. now, or what's going on with your location? Ranky Mendoza says, thank you, sir. Great job. You're welcome. Pook Paris asks, if someone has a 10-year green card, and how many months a year can he stay in his home country? Thank you so much. So this is a long discussion that I'm not sure if we have time for because we got a couple of questions. I have a lot of videos on YouTube on this topic. Say I'm a green card holder. How many months can I be outside the United States and this and that? There's a lot of videos on this. I would say check that out because it's a larger discussion that I just don't have time to do right now. But I've done tons of videos on this question. Essentially, if you're a green card holder, you're supposed to be living in the United States, and that should be it. If you're interested in spending long periods of time outside, you should file for U.S. citizenship. PJ with Bass says, if you're a young couple, like 20 on 20, and getting married because you want to be together after basically knowing each other 2 years, and do justice of the peace with no family members, how would that work? Just like every other case, that's really it. Download the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide at marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Get to know the basics of the case, and then schedule a private consultation with myself or another attorney to really go over your case in detail, because it's just not enough information there, but that's not an abnormal kind of case. Let me take a question on Instagram. Aguda says, I got accepted. My sister didn't, apparently lack of evidence, but we both presented the same information. It could be because different people see our cases judged differently. Aguda, I can't remember what your case was about, but that's something that happens. So people get really frustrated sometimes when they have a good case and doesn't get approved, and their friends do, and then how come? Is it the lawyer's problem? Why is it a problem? USCIS, you can have the exact same case. You can just send the same case twice. One officer gets it, approves it. One officer loses it, gets an RFE, denies it. This is the reality. That's why I never could guarantee cases, because it's a bureaucracy. There's millions of cases that are doing, mistakes do happen. And so in this case, the viewer said, my sister and I applied at the same case. I got approved. She did it. What's going on? I haven't seen the document, so I can't tell you. But this is a situation we deal with immigration. It's not abnormal. Now, my wonderful sister Katrina has named you as our final winner for our 3 consultation. Like, why not just take a screenshot of watching this and email it to me at info@jqqlaw.com. And what I'll do is apply with the email to schedule a private consultation. For those just tuning into a live show, you missed the opportunity now, but next week you'll have it where you could schedule a live free video consultation with me. All you gotta do is watch the show, like and subscribe, and write consultation in the the where you could write stuff out, and my assistant will name somebody. So I missed one question on Instagram. S. Caballero says, I'm a DACA recipient. I want to apply for advanced parole, but I had removal proceedings, which is administrative closed. Would that affect me? You know what? I don't handle a case like, I handle advanced parole for DACA all the time. I haven't had one with removal proceedings before as administrative closed. I think you can travel, but I don't want to tell you that for sure because I need to do the research on it. I don't want to give you information I'm not sure of. So if you like, we'll add you to a 4th free consultation. Email me, take a screenshot of this so I know it's you, and email to me at info@jqqlaw.com. We'll schedule a quick time to chat, and I'll look into that to see if that's okay. I just got to read the instructions and stuff like that, but I just haven't dealt with the scenario, so I don't want to just guess something and say something maybe incorrect, especially on a live show. So just take a screenshot, send it to me, and we'll take it from there. And we got 1 or 2 more questions left. User 9 asks, how is the embassy interview schedule in India? Really bad. So they said in September they're going to be fully staffed again and start the process for scheduling interviews for visa processing in India. I hope so, but there's a ginormous backlog happening. So you can expect delays, even though that line is going to be starting to move. But in September, it's only July right now. It's going to be July in a couple of days. So July, August. So it's just not good. It's a lot of delays. Naz asks, has there been a speed up in the processing time in California? It's hard to say. 29 Super sees that I'm in the U.S. Transition has been tough, but hanging through. God bless you. I hope you get through. I know you've had between the delay and the personal life and all that kind of stuff. 29 Super C, one of our regular viewers. It's been tough, but you'll get there. And immigration is not an easy process. I generally don't recommend people immigrate. You'd be surprised to hear that from an immigration attorney saying people shouldn't immigrate. And the reason I love immigration, I think you really should, but you got to expect real hardship. Even though nowadays you're not getting on a boat and sailing somewhere, you should sail 6 months from Europe here or from China here. it's very tough. And you come here and there's less discrimination, there's more opportunity. But on a personal level, immigration is really, really, really tough. So you got to have the stomach for it. But if you do, the gold and treasure lies await. And one last question. Tangi asks, as a U.S. citizen, can I apply for my spouse and sister at the same time? I apply my parents' spouse and sister at the same time. So your parents' spouse, so maybe parents, comma, spouse, comma, and sister. So you could start an I-130 petition for all of them as a U.S. citizen. Your parent and spouse will get done in 1-2 years, hopefully. Your sister will not. Her case is going to take 10, 15 years, maybe even 20 years. So typically in these cases, we apply for one of your parents, and then once they get the green card, they apply for their spouse and child at the same time as the F2B preference category. It's a little more complex. This is most things, Tangi. You just talk with immigration and private energy, and we'll take it from there. Just email the office to schedule a formal consultation so I can talk with you and your parents and spouse. Actually, you got to talk to your parents and sister in one consultation, spouse another. There's private information we don't share to all parties. But if you're interested in that, just schedule a consultation. Email me at info@jqqlaw.com. Fees do apply, but email me. We'll fill you in on that. Nod says, thank you. You're welcome. Maverick says, any advice for pending I-751 Nebraska Service Center submitted a month ago? How can we expect to hear? When can we expect? There's no expectation with regard to timelines. Just looking to file for citizenship if you can file a 3-year citizenship. And our last question, Ahmed asked, I did an I-824. I contacted the congressperson to help me for my case because they approved my I-130 for adjustment status. I also applied for visa abroad. Yeah, Ahmed, unfortunately, it depends on how long your I-824 is pending. A congressperson probably can't help you if it's just been pending for a little bit. Be prepared for, annoyingness. I need to know more about the case, but that's that. And last question, QT Sweet says, can I have my I-130 expedited if I'm pregnant? You can give it a shot. I haven't had success with that scenario recently, but you never know. It always depends on what officer you're dealing with. Aguada has some questions on Instagram. Aguada, you're a winner for a raffle. Just send me an email and we can talk privately about your case briefly. All right, everybody, thank you so much. We'll be back again next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific as always. Well, except for last week where I missed it. But other than that, I had a 2.5-year record all this year. Just went off. Hopefully it never happens again. It was a pleasure coming on the show. Lively discussion. We have probably like 30 people on different things, different places watching. So wonderful. Ongoing 30 people. That's a pretty good show. We have some great questions. God bless you all. Be safe. And hopefully we make the U.S. and help make the world go around. Bye-bye.